So configurable security is something that we're going to start today, and we'll get going on the details on this. For business process configuration setup, we did look at business process for higher BP, how we can set up different actionable items, initiation requests, and the global settings for any given business process. So just a soft reminder as to how we can do that. So let's take a different business process today, say BP change job. I hope you can see my screen. So here, the first thing that I would like to do is go to the security group restrictions and see that who has initiating security group access to this business process. Now, what does this business process cover? So let's have a quick look. I'm logged in as Steve Morgan. I search for say Yuli. If I go to actions, job change, and say transfer promoter change job. Anything in this business process that is related to the job change would be covered under this business process. For example, like 8.1, why am I making this change? Say data changes, change job details, and this is job location details. Anything that's in job change in this section and location and details, I can configure this in my business process right here. So this is going to be the business process for change job default definition. Here we have our steps A, B, C, D, E, F, and going on till L. And for example, I would like the HR partner, HR systems, implementer, security. I would like to add, say, manager's manager to initiate the job change as well. So I go to the related actions button, go to business process policy, go to edit. And here I have different sections like who can start the business process. So initiating action is change job. So who can initiate change job? And description is change job menu and related actions from worker. The related actions is say this is related actions from the related actions button. So who can do that from there? Security groups who can delegate to other users. So it's not allowed to be delegated so far. Then the next section is change of contingent worker details. So change contingent worker details. Who has access to those groups? Then change location and the security groups. Then web services is for bulk loads. So who can do a bulk load on change job? Request transfer. In the change job section, there's a section or type of change job is request transfer. So who can do that? Import change job background services when there's an inbound integration coming in. So you can give the permissions here. This is through the REST API. So who can run this? The groups are listed here. Start change job, initiate, supervisor. This is a change job help menu. I'll show you how this works as well. So these people can access this. Now then the next section is who can do steps, actions in business. So the action step is manage business process for worker. Who can do that? Review change job for worker. Let me just explain it a little bit what this is mean. So when we look at this business process step, let me make it a full screen. And if you see the type, this is what we are referring to in the security settings, the types. Action, initiation, approval, to do, consolidated approvals, actions. So this is what we are trying to configure that what type of business process step are allowed in the security by who. So review receiving manager, who can do that? Review current manager, who can do that? We see here, when we select who can do that, they are listed in this group section. So like the manager, manager's manager, HR partner. And here you see receiving manager, current manager, or receiving manager. Whenever you have these managers selected, if you see in the routing modifier, it says current and proposed. So proposed is the receiving manager. Current is, of course, the current manager in these cases. So review current manager, review receiving manager. And who can do a next section is who can do an actions on entire business process, like view all, view completed only, who can approve, who can do ad hoc approve, cancel, the web services for bulk load, who can do recent, then the recent web services, then correct, then reassignment, reassign task, manual advance, deny. So we should remove this. Policy restrictions. If we have any global business policy selection criteria that we need to do, we can do that here. So allow business process delegation. We have selected yes. Hide comments from worker. For all the change of all the comments by managers, HR, and we want to hide it from the worker. The worker doesn't get to see all the comments that is being discussed between the responsible people for HR for different roles in the company, like HR BP, like manager, like supervisor, like HR admin. And if they're commenting on the BP, we would like that those comments to be hidden from the worker. So we've selected this. And if you want to allow attachments within the business process steps, we can do that here as well. So after we make changes to the business process, any kind of security changes to any BP or domains, security policies, we have to activate them one time after the change has been made or when you would like to change that change to take in effect. Generally speaking, all the changes in a tenant are for security should be handled by the security administrator. It could be the same as HR administrator or it could be different from the HR administrator. So HR administrator can create policies, develop security settings, assign security roles, and depending on your company policy, these roles can be with the same person or can be with two separate persons to have more control. So your changes have been saved, but they are not yet in effect. So for this to happen, to get it into effect, I need to use the task called activate pending security policy changes. So I can give my comment, PP. Of course, whatever permissions that you have set up in your production should be replicated in your sandbox environment. So do keep in mind that your sandbox environment it is refreshed every weekend, and it takes all your settings, security settings, business process settings, all your data from your production environment as of say Friday midnight, and replicates that into your sandbox, and you should be able to access it by say Saturday evening. So you have a replica of your production environment available in your sandbox with all your settings, configurations, and worker details. Okay, after I've put the comment, it will show me the current security evaluation movement, which was done last time by somebody else, and the proposed security evaluation movement, so what we are doing currently. It'll show the comment that we are doing, and then it'll show me the business process security policy changes, or if I have made any changes to the domain, it'll give me the domain security policy changes as well. So listed item, if I'm okay with this, I press OK, and it'll give me a timestamp that this has been implemented. So whatever changes that we made in this business process is now activated after doing the view activate security policy changes. Let's look at another business process. Say business process termination. So in this company, GMS, so who can initiate the termination business process? HR admin, HR partner by location, HR systems implementer, and so on. So these people can initiate the termination, terminate employee action. And how does one terminate anyone? Let's see. UV. Though you will find it in the change job section, but this is a different process. Job change, And here I will see terminate employees. As an HR admin or people who have access to the initiate termination process, you will find it in job change and terminate employee in the second section in the change job. So when this process is initiated for a given worker, these are the steps for processing or the workflow for termination. So we have seen who can initiate it through the security group restrictions. Then step B is an action, which is review employee termination by HR partner. And here we have put the restriction that initiator approvers are not to be part of the, if they are part of the HR partner. For example, Logan McNeil was the initiator for the termination process, but when it is assigned to HR partner, and if Logan is part of HR partner, we are putting a restriction that Logan herself cannot review employee termination. So initiator or past approvers need to be restricted to review the employee termination. And how do we add these restrictions on the step? So I go to the related action buttons on the magnifying glass, go to business process, and go to maintain advanced routing. Again, any changes on the business process has to be current or future dated. We cannot make changes on business process in the past date because a lot of business process might be in progress. So we cannot make changes in the past. So we can make it for today or for an effective future dated. So the routing restrictions that are selected here is exclude initiators, exclude prior approvers. Anybody who has approved a step in this process should not be part of the reviewer, and exclude event subject. By event subject, what it means is the worker himself or herself, if they are part of the HRBP group or they are part of the security group, they need to be excluded from the review. So a good practice is if I hover my mouse over a given item, Workday does provide this kind of pop-up help text for you. So it says, check this box if you do not want the worker that is in process is about to act on this step. That is, approve the step. So if, for example, there are 2 or 3 employees and they all meet these conditions, so none of them are able to, for example, one of them was initiator, one of them was prior approver, and one of them is the subject itself. If that happens, what do we do? Then there is an alternate security group which is called alternate approvers. In case if these 3 conditions are met for those 3 employees, and we get into a situation where all these 3 employees that are part of the HR partner group meet all these 3 conditions, then do an alternate approver security group who are relative to the transaction. Okay. The second option is relative to the excluded users. So anyone that is related to the executive approvers, such as peers or managers, they are related to the users or transactions. Let me try and edit these business process. You don't configure business process for employees. You configure business process as a standard tenant level business process. You can have specific configured business process for specific security supervisory organizations as well. An example for this could be that you have a sales team or an engineering team that requires different steps from the general population in the company where you need to do a change job. So you need a different set of approval or approval step that is not applicable to the entire company. So you can have a change job for a specific supervisory organization as well. And it can be applied to that superorg only and that superorg and other subordinates under that as well. So you can define business processes changes either on a global tenant level for all the population or specific to a given support. So it cannot be done for a specific employee. It can be done on a supervisory organization level or the global tenant level. Yes, it will be for the entire population. Let me, to answer this question in a more elaborate way, let me show you the BP termination again. Let me search for it. Here you will see termination default definition. This is for the tenant level population. And if I see termination for global modern services, so this BP is specifically for the company global modern services. Maybe you have say 4, 5, 6 companies in your tenant for different countries that you have created, and you would like to have a separate termination for global modern services. So you can do that here as well. So if I cancel this, and here you would see view process definition, termination default definition. And here I have the business object, global modern services. And if I look at the details, this is a supervisory organization. The type is supervisory organization name is global modern services. The subordinates are executive management group. So the termination process has to be initiated on either an employee level or on a bulk load. So if we do an EIB, do it on a bulk load, say we have to terminate, say, 500 employees. Either we can do it on those individual employees ourselves by going to each employee and do termination on employee level, one by one, or we can do a bulk termination based on an EIB load. So the termination task has to be done individually or by bulk load on given employees by the people who are authorized to run the termination or initiate the termination task for a given worker. And say, for example, you said Joy Banks. So let's see, Joy Banks is part of Global Modern Services. And yes, she's part of Global Modern Services Executive Management Group. So if I terminate Joy Banks, she would be going through this particular process, which is terminate for Global Modern Services. If somebody who is not part of Global Modern Services, they would be routed to this termination default definition, which is on the tenant level. And say these are the steps configured in this termination business process. Make these a little smaller, the ones that I don't need. So I don't need run as user. I don't need notes. Let me apply this. So this will become a little smaller, so we might be able to see it in one screen. Now I see the steps A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and there are some steps that are marked as same order, like E and E. What this means that these, I need to fire these orders side by side together. So it is not going to happen that, okay, after E happens, then F happens. When I have E and E twice, I need these two to be fired together. So there was a question the other day that how do we do parallel steps or steps that we need to happen at the same time? In your order, you can have the same steps order, like the alphabets, or it can be, say, E1 and say E2. So again, if I do E1 and E2, this would be part of E1 and this would be part of step E, but then I am setting up a sequence that this should happen first, then this should happen. But if I keep it, say, E1 and E1, they both will happen parallelly. The if conditions, if I need to put a condition for this worker, such as for F step, termination procedure legal director, this needs to be sent to as a to-do item as an HR partner. If the country is USA, if the worker is not in USA, then this step should fire, otherwise it will be skipped. So this is what the if conditions help you with, that there are some logics that you need to apply to those steps or conditions that you need to put on those steps. We can add conditions in each and every step, so there could be more than one conditions as well. So specify is something that we can select from the menu. So there are some steps that are allowed. Say, for example, there are to-do steps. What are the active to-do steps that are available in the business process? So if I have already created a to-do step, I can select it from the list. But if I need to create a to-do step, say, create to-do, consult Joy Banks. A to-do can be just it's a reminder. If I want to assign a specific task along with this to-do, I'm able to do that as well. Excuse me. So, any of the tasks that are available or configured in the tenant. So if I need to say, show the security history for user as a task, when this to-do step is done, so I can create my to-dos. I select a to-do description, and then I can assign a task that happens with the to-do as well in the inbox of, say, Joy Banks. So I just edited this, consult Joy Banks with security access policy. It is assigned to security administrator, and the restriction is the person itself or himself. If they are the initiator, they would not be allowed to run this to-do step. Another thing, the section is called all. By all, if I select this, so in this group, HR partner, we may have, say, how many people do we have here? So when we assign a task to HR partner group, HR partner role has been assigned to, say, these 13 employees for these supervisory organizations. Now, when I select all, it means that anybody who is a HR partner for this supervisory organization or for the entire tenant, everybody needs to approve. So for example, there are 5 HR partners in the company, and if I select all those 5, unless they submit approve from the task, the process will not go to the next step. Generally speaking, when you have a group of people, say 5 people in your HR, and when the task is assigned as a step for HR partner, like step B is assigned to HR partner, all the 5 HR partner, related HR partner to this transaction will get the notification or the actionable item in their inbox. And if all is not selected, either one of them can do the process. And if they say approve or decline or send back, that step action would be completed and it will move on to the next. But unless there is a need that all the 5 people need to approve, for example, there is a provident fund loan requirement. And as per policy, 3 people in the company must approve it. Create a group for provident fund approvers or provident fund loan approvers. And you, if you select all, then unless all those 3 employees take a decision on that step, it will not proceed to the next step. The business process will wait for all the approvers or all the reviewers to take the action and then move on to the next step. And then we have the due date. So it is selectable. Generally speaking, 2 days is enough for a review step or an action step to complete. And if we are going to set up the due date based on from the effective date that we started this process, all these actions need to be based on that day, effective based on that day. So, for example, we started the process on the 22nd of July. The due date would be based on 2 days after the 2nd of July. So if I want to do 2 days here without this, but if I select, say, due date is based on effective date, it will count all these days from the effective date when the termination started from. So what types of step activity can happen? So they can be action, they can be approval chain, batch job, checklist. If you want to send a questionnaire to the subject, we can set up a questionnaire and select that. If you have a consolidated approval step, approval chain, if I need to add it additional data refers to custom objects on either the worker, position, and so on. So custom objects, if we need to create that is not available in Workday or Workday delivered object, if we need to create a custom object in our tenant, that is what edit additional data refers to. If I need to fire an integration in the step, I can do that. If I need to run a report or a report group in the step actions, I can select that. Review documents is documentation that needs to be reviewed by a reviewer. If I need to fire a service, say create Workday account or close Workday account or any kind of service that is uh, within Workday's tenant, that I can run tasks. We just selected one of the tasks, say view security history of the user. So any kind of task that I need to fire within the workflow or business process, I can, and we just created a to-do list. If I go to service, let me add another, say, step Z. I want to select service. And what services are available for this particular business process would show here. Not the entire services that are available in the Workday, but whichever business process that you're configuring, what services are available for this business process. So just time of balances, auto management business processes, deprovisioning accounts, and any kind of service that is available within the tenant, say terminate user account. I want this to be the last step. So I've marked it as Z. And it might already be there. Yeah. So K is Workday owned service terminate user account. As a service has been defined that after all these steps, when everything has been done, exit interview, benefit changes, COBRA eligibility, that is for US, one-time payments towards the end, and then after all this is completed, then terminate user account. And here, if you see a tab, it says configure termination user account. You can configure the settings for the termination service as well. So it will give me whatever configuration parameters that I have available, I can set that up. So use termination date or use last date worked, and what time do I want to termination account termination happen. Say, for example, I want it to happen at 12 midnight of that given day. So 11:45 p.m. And I would like the account to be terminated, say use last day worked. So I can set up these parameters in my configuration. For example, let's go again, look at one more type of action or step. Say I need to do review documents, and who can review, say HR. If I have a legal group available to review documents, say step K was my last step, so I can say J2, and I can switch this to J, say I give it 2 days. So now after J1, the request one-time payment, the last step or the second last step I've configured is review documents. And if I click on configure documents, I can select what kind of documents I need to add in the review. So say, I would say effective date, and I can select the documents that I need to have it reviewed by, say, the legal team. For example, non-disclosure agreement. Conditions, I don't want to put any conditions, and what I would like is to have an acknowledgement that acknowledge kindly. And if I need to have any attachment options, that I could say that, okay, you have to attach a document. It is optional, or I don't need to have any attachments. And not just one document. So for example, if I need them to review more than one document, so this is a document number one, non-disclosure agreement. I can select another document, documents, and say code of ethics. And for this, I need acknowledgement and say I need attachment required. So if I go down further, it'll say review documents. And here it'll list the documents that I've included for review for this particular step. code of ethics and non-disclosure agreement. Signature statement I have added here. For code of ethics, I have said attachment option is required. For this, there is no attachment option is selected. I've shown you how you can set up the action steps in business process. How do we send for approvals, which kind of groups that we can select, and what are the conditions or the restrictions we can put on the steps that exclude the initiator or exclude prior approvers. We also discuss the alternate approval group as well. Overall actions we have selected from the business process, who can view, who can rescind, who can cancel, who can correct. So we can go to each and every section and add the relevant security groups in those sections. Towards the end of the business process, we saw that policy restrictions such as delegation, comments, and attachments, how we can enable them, disable them. So any questions on business process configuration, and the security? Next is configurable security is security groups. A security group is a collection of Workday users that you can link to one or more domains or business processes security policy. So currently in the business process, we saw that we started adding the security groups. That managers, initiators, HR administrator, HR partners. So these are all security groups. So Workday determines security group membership for individual users. You can explicitly add to a group indirectly through relevant information stored about them in the Workday, such as role, position, or geographical location. We did see that how we can assign security groups who can initiate or do a particular task in the business process. For example, if I go to Logan McNeil and her supervisory organization, say HR Services Department, we have assigned roles, or we can also, the role for synonym for role could be responsibilities in this HR Services Department to different people. So assignable role, absence partner is a responsibility that who is going to be the absence partner for this supervisory organization. So all the absence related actionable items would be assigned to the absence partner on this supervisory organization. And who is it assigned to? Assigned to Logan McNeil and Maria Cardoza. Similarly, the benefits partner is also Logan and Maria. So for anything that's related to facilities, it is Christine Nguyen, who are the HR executives for this supervisory organization. So it's Logan, Joy, Tammy, who are the recruiters. So Logan and Carmen. Assignable, the roles are basically a synonym for responsibilities, and you can assign those responsibilities as actionable responsibilities to different people in every supervisory organization. Of course, this can be inherited from the superior organization as well. Like we see here from role from, it is inherited. But this specific manager has been assigned individually to Logan. So this is not inherited. We have seen before that how it can be assigned roles. So if I go to the related action button, and if I go to roles, I can assign roles to different people. So manager and organization partner has been assigned, the rest has been inherited. So if I want to not use the inherited person, but I need to assign a specific person, say compensation partner, so I can add plus, and I can override the inheritance, say compensation partner, and I want to assign it to say Yuli Bowles. So when I select Yuli Bowles, her position will be listed here, the P0038 Manager IT Operations, and assigning this to Yuli Bowles. So these roles will remain static with the supervisory organization. The people can come and go from this position. Today it's Yuli Bowles on Manager IT Operation. Tomorrow it could be, say, Sam, who is the Manager IT Operations. So this compensation partner role will remain with this position, and the worker can change. So whenever there's a change in organization, people can move in and move out from positions, but these roles will be assigned to that position. Now, if I see the compensation partner, it's assigned to Yuli Bowles and it is assigned, not inherited. If I want to view a summary of all the security groups in the tenant, say include domain, disabled functionality, I don't want to do that. Include inactive security groups, I don't want that. And security group types, if I want to select, I can, but I want to have an entire list. So there are 688 security groups in this tenant. So it says the security group type, name, any comments, is it Workday owned, it's mixed, does it have any assignable roles, included security groups, excluded security groups, and the other details regarding security groups are mentioned here. What domains does the security group cover or it's part of? Business processes these security group have initiate access to. And the other information regarding business process, types, view access, view completed access, approve access, cancel, web services, whatever configuration we saw in the business processes, initiation and steps, and overall, you can see all these information here. So when you want to do an investigation or an audit, or if you want to assign somebody uh, to a security group or assign to a role, this is a good report or good way to see an overall overview of what a person has. So for example, if I want to look at HR administrator, so it's a user-based security group, so it can be assigned to individual users. Security group name, any comments that has been assigned or that has been added to the security group. So it's create, maintain, view, and report all HR operational data regardless of organizations. Example include compensation, compliance, hires, job changes, and so on. So the comments are there. Unconstrained, the context type unconstrained means that it is not restricted to a supervisory organization or its subordinate. It is unconstrained across all supervisory organizations. So does it have any assignable roles? No. Is it constrained by organizations? No. Any excluded security groups in this or included? None. So other usages. So what usage access this security group has? I can see it here. Administration definition or usages can be seen here. Domains granted to security groups does not include inherited domains. So what are the top level domains in Workday that this security group has access to? So it has access to compensation, business process definition, IE audits, all the custom domain, dashboards, all these domains, which covers different aspects of Workday, are allowed access or granted security permissions on all these domains for this particular group. Here, it has access to 198 business processes. Enrichment access means that they can edit and modify the business processes. So view access to these groups, 257. Completed access to these groups, these business processes or these steps, and the related details are mentioned here. So this is a very good report, like view security groups, and you can have a complete snapshot of a given security group as to what it is all about. Now let me open the security group. So I can click it from here to on the security group name, or I can go to say view security. Earlier we selected security groups, so we can have a list of all the groups. But now I want to see one. So I'm looking at view user-based security group HR administrator. So the name, the comments, context type, if it's constrained or unconstrained. So if I hover my mouse, it'll give me a snippet of what does unconstrained means. If I click on members, I will see that who are the members of this HR administrative security group. So it's Jacqueline and Logan are the users of the security group, or they have been assigned membership to this particular security group. Here it will give me all the view and modify are for pre-hire skills and experience, this domain security policies that can be inherited are mentioned here. And what is a functional area that this domain security policy is part of? Now, view and modify is used for the GUI interface. The operation get and put is used for integration or bulk loads. So I can see all the domains, their security policy, the inheriting permissions, and the functional areas that this particular security group has domain security policy permissions on. Next tab is the business process security policy permissions. So domains and business process are different. So business process, for example, let's look at termination. So on the business process termination, what access this security group has? The operation type, approve, cancel, correct, enrichment, initiate, rescind, and view all are the permissions that are allowed for the security group in the business process termination. And business process termination is part of the functional area called stuffing. If I want to add a user to this user-based security group, say for example, either I can go to edit or assign users. So if I want to add, say I want to add Julie Bowles as well to the HR admin, I can select this, press OK. And for this, I do not need to activate a security policy change because I'm not changing a security policy. I'm adding users to a security group. Unless I'm making policy changes, I do not need to activate. So here I can see that now there are 3 people who are HR admin on the tenant and part of HR administrator user-based security group. Now there is also a security group called role-based, say HR partner. We saw in our supervisory organization that we can assign roles to users. In order to be able to assign role, we need to have a role-based security group. And here, this role-based security group is a constrained one. So when we select constrained, we are saying that it can be applied on a given supervisory organization. Hence, you see the access rights to supervisory organization and access rights to multiple job workers. So let's review it first. So it has 332 domain security policy permissions for view and modify, get input, so integration as well as view and modify access. To these domain security policies, these are the policies that will inherit these permissions, and these are the functional areas. Similarly, they have access to 245 business processes with the operations, business process name, and the functional areas that it covers. When we create a role-based security group, it has to be assigned to a role that we may already have in the tenant, or we need to create, like HR partner is a role. How do we maintain the list of roles? So maintain roles. So depending on my organization, if I need to create and maintain my own company roles, like I don't want to call them HR administrator, I want to call them ITIS administrator. So all the roles that you may have in your organization can be maintained through here. It's quite simple. You can just click on add. Say I want to say IT/IS. I can say it is enabled for, and I want it to be enabled for supervisory organizations. So if I want to default a role, I can. Is it self-assigned? Can the employee, him or herself, can assign this role to themselves? No, I don't want that. If I want to restrict it to assign self-assigned roles in BP, I do not want to do that. Restrict it to a single assignment, I don't want to have this restriction. And say, is it a leader role or is it a supporting role or none of the above? And this role can be assigned by, say, security administrator, security partner, and security configurator. In next section, it'll show me the usage count at how many places this role is being used in. And if there's any role with security group that this role is being used in, it'll tell me the security group that it is assigned with. Say I want to change this to edit role-based security group. I go to the related action button. I go to edit and say I want to also assign it to ITIS. I want to change the role assignment to ITIS administrator. So I have to either use an existing role or create a new role for the security group to be assigned to that role. And then that role can be assigned to supervisory organizations. Now, what does this section access rights to organization means? We have a couple of options. So whichever supervisory organization that this HR partner role is going to be assigned to, I can set the permissions for that superorg as to which level of access or which subordinate or superior organization that role can be utilized by. If I select the first section, say applies to current supervisory organization only. So for example, if I'm applying this role to Logan McNeil's HR services department, and I want to apply this role, say, to recruitment department only. In fact, let's do one more thing. Superior HR services department, and it has three departments as subordinates, and the superior is human resources department. So if I select applies to current organization only, and if I am applying this role to say human resources or HR services department, it will only apply this role on this superorg only. If I apply to a position here in HR services department, and if the role type is applies to current organization only, it will only apply to this single supervisory organization. But if I say applies to current organization and unassigned subordinates, so for example, if I have the absence partner Logan McNeil here, it is inherited. And if I go to benefits department, which is a subordinate organization, and if I see here that this is inherited as well, this is inherited because of the setting applies to current and unassigned subordinates. If I don't have a specific assignment given to a specific position on a subordinate supervisory organization, it will apply to all of the supervisory organization in the subordinate levels, which are not assigned to any position. If I select the third option, applies to current and organization and all subordinates, so any specific assignments given to any person either inherited it or assigned, it will override this and only assign based on this rule. So it will write all current assignments and all inherited assignments, and it will override it and specify that this is going to be the HR partner for the support and all the subordinates. Again, if I go to my superior organization, I have, say, three levels of organization. So executive management group, HR operations, and then under HR services department, I have all these departments. So if I look at my org hierarchy for HR, I have human resources, then say Logan's level. So that's one, two, three, third level on my tree structure, and say I have my three levels of superorgs. If I want to assign applies to the, say, if I'm applying it on my top level organization for human resources, and I want the role assignments to go to say two levels below only in subordinate levels, that this role should be assigned to the top level support that I'm selecting it for, and I would like to the subordinate levels to go down two levels further only. So I can select applies to current and subordinate organizations to level 2. So it'll apply to say human resources, HR services, and benefits, payroll, and recruiting department. So this is the third level. Sorry, the second level is going to be HR services department. If I select 3, it will trickle down till the third level of human resources. If I select 3. Generally speaking, as a normal practice, we tend to use applies to current organization and unassigned subordinates. Now, when we have selected the access to organizations, we can select the role has access to positions that they support within that organization, that the level that we have selected, Role for primary job has access to all positions, or role has access to all positions within that supervisory organization. So you've got three options that what level of access to the you would like to give the role to the job to the workers.